Okay, I said I was going to show you, and here's the proof. I'm going to introduce you close up to the SS Palo Alto, the concrete boat. Where's your proof? Right there. Steel cable, but the hull is made of concrete. Originally designed for combat in World War I, her construction on her was started in 1917. Unfortunately, she wasn't finished until 1919, after the war was over. So, with her original use suddenly gone, she traveled under her own power to the port of San Francisco, where she sat for the next 10 years. Now, I'm hearing some of you already saying in your minds, why would you make a ship out of concrete? Simple. When you're in time of war, you got shortage of materials. Metals become scarce because you're trying to keep the war machine going. So what you do is you try to find other materials to use, and that was how the SS Palo Alto got built. She was one of 14 concrete boats built for World War I. And out of those 14, one is still in existence. It's floating on the water as a hotel in the waters of Cuba. As for the rest, some were lost in combat, some were lost in storms, others were purposely grounded and turned into man-made reefs. So what's Palo Alto doing here? How did it come here? Very simple. After sitting in the docks of port of San Francisco, I'll get my words yet, thank you. After sitting in the port of San Francisco for 10 years without a use, they took out all her engines and a lot of other things because, well, the end of World War I was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And World War II was still another 10, 12 years off, and nobody knew it. So, an entertainment company bought the Palo Alto and towed her out here to Seacliff, built this huge pier all the way out to her, and then turned her into an entertainment palace. The novelty of a ship being made of concrete was part of the draw. The interior, down in the holds where the cargo was going to hold the oil, that was turned into an indoor swimming pool. As for the rest of the ship was fine dining, entertainment, shows, dancing. It was a show palace, a floating show palace. Well, not really floating because they purposely ran her aground on the sandbar because she was never going to be put out to the ocean again. Like I said before, her engines are gone. And she was a success. Unfortunately, this all happened in 1929. The Great Depression was already underway. 2 years later, the company that brought her here and made her that showcase palace went bankrupt. And poor Palo Alto was left to the elements. So, that was the history of the Palo Alto. As she was left to the elements, the State Park of California bought her cheaply for $1. And she became a piece of living history. An attraction for the park and recreations. And up until a few years ago, you could still walk on her decks. Many people used to come and cast their fishing lines over the edge. Unfortunately, as you can see, poor Palo Alto has really fallen to the elements. All that talk I had earlier about the ocean being powerful and stuff, well, it took its toll on her. Just sitting there, even grounded, the pounding of the waves, she broke not once, but twice. The far end you cannot even reach these days, maybe at low tide. Right now it's a bit of high tide, but it's deemed too dangerous for anyone to go out there. And even the closer deck, which was where people used to be able to fish, has been closed off. Now, okay, so that ship captured my imagination. it had an interesting history. Now, I'm not into nonfiction. I don't do history writing. I do fictional writing, mysteries, horror, stuff like that. Fantasy, dark fantasy even. And already my brain was churning with possibilities of, well, what might have happened on that ship during the days when it was an entertainment vessel? Could murder have happened on it? Could there still be a body hidden away somewhere in the cement when the ship was under construction, maybe? A mystery that nobody knows about yet. Is there ghosts on it or something like that? All that started going through my mind, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to do something really different. So I had to give it more thought. Now, a few days later, on another part of the beach, I was watching some surfers. I was fascinated. I've been wanting to try surfing ever since I moved here, and one of these days I'm actually going to do it, and I'll tell you about it, maybe take it for a ride. But in the meantime, I was watching that, and I was watching one or two get tossed about by the waves as they wipe out or something, and I thought to myself, how freaky would it be if, while you were just paddling on the calm water, before you even reached a wave, suddenly one of these surfers got hit from below, went flying as if they had just wiped out, but there was no way. Something under the water hit them and threw them. That would be creepy. That would be unnerving. Now, immediately the first thought was, good old shark attack or something like that. Well, that's been done to death already. We all know the Jaws theme, dum 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 dum, and all that stuff. But what if everyone thought it was that, but it wasn't? What if it was some strange creature nobody had ever seen or heard of, or at least nobody alive ever seen or talked about? So now I started having another idea going in my head. But I could not join the two yet. I had two good ideas. I had Palo Alto, a wonderful setting for a story. I had surfing, but I needed more. So then I started thinking back to my first novel, The Bridge. At the end of it, I had not originally planned for any sequels necessarily. But two of the characters were coming out here to Santa Cruz, just kind of, riding off into the sunset kind of deal. And one of them is a psychic, the other is a shamanist, Native American shamanist. And all of a sudden, ideas started gelling. A strange creature in the water. The psychic girl is a billionaire heiress. And along here in Seacliff are multi-million dollar beach houses. Okay, billionaire heiress. She could have one out here. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Of course it would. So then, her and her friend, along with two other people, had battled a strange creature in the first book. Why not encounter another type of creature, a different one, out here? All of a sudden, all the pieces were starting to come into place. I had some characters, I had a plot idea, and above all, I had a setting. As I stare at the Palo Alto, one of the things that always kept occurring to me in the back of my head was, I kept in my mind's eye, I kept seeing a figure standing at the very end of it, that furthest point out on the water. A lone figure. I couldn't figure out whether it was man, woman, or what. And how the heck did they get out there, considering how bad a shape the vessel is in, and that there's a fence blocking it? There, the story of the ship started coming to life. It all started gelling to me. It all started coming together. Now, I'm not going to give you any more about the ship's story, the story of the ship, rather, because, well, I'm still working on the novel. For one thing, I got it 2/3 of the way done. But I want to leave something for you folks to read about. I don't want to give away the plot and the whole story, because a lot of things happen in between. There are other characters. But hopefully now you can see what I was talking about earlier, how sometimes a story, at least for me, a story does not come from just one idea, but several ideas and slowly finding a way to thread them together that they make sense. I hope this has helped you out a little bit and started getting your imaginations going. I'm hoping to do a blog a week about writing. Sometimes I'll be touching on the same subject, whether it's stories, setting, characters, getting ideas. I will also be covering things like about trying to get an agent, e-book publishing, self-publishing, stuff like that. I'm going to cover all of that stuff with time. But for now, I want to stick with the bare bone, the main, how do you come up with a novel in the first place, a story? And hopefully I've been of some help to you today. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you will tune in again next week when I give you another installment. I hope in time to keep taking you to different places. Sometimes I'll take you to actual locations that are appearing in my books. Or it might just be where I'm working, or just someplace where I found that's quiet and is good for me to work and think. Because half the storytelling happens up here before it ever gets to the computer and onto paper, folks. It's all got to happen up here first. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave some comments down below. Let me know if I'm starting to capture your imagination and give you ideas. In fact, I'd love to hear if the Palo Alto, just looking at it, if that inspired any ideas in your heads. Now, I'm not going to use your ideas. Those are your ideas. But I'd like to know if I'm being of help to you or not. Until next time, thanks for watching, and take care, and keep writing.